Good morning. I know some of us are going to be popping in. I'm going to try to see if we can stream it live on Facebook. So give me a second as we're all kind of getting in. If you guys, I want to know if the chat is actually working. So you guys are going to have to let me know. Let's see. Well, it doesn't look like I can stream. Okay, well maybe we won't worry about that then. But that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Get back into Zoom. All right. Well, hopefully you guys can all see this. I don't know if anyone can write in the chat, but if you can, tell me where you're from. Sometimes the chats work and sometimes they don't. A couple people raised their hands, so I'm assuming it's not enabled. So I'm guessing. Let me see. Chat with every panels. Okay, we can chat with everyone. Let me see if that has fixed it. Okay, try to chat again. Oh, yep, it's enabled. Okay, we got it. Okay, yay. All right, I'm here by myself. Usually I have, Mississippi, Atlanta, Panama. Awesome. Canada, California, Utah. Okay, lots of you. Okay, awesome. Okay, I love it. So sometimes am here with my assistant who helps me out a little bit on these, and sometimes I'm not. And so I'm here alone today. So we're just going to kind of navigate through. And if there's any issues, you guys can give me something in the Q&A. And I will take questions at the end of this. So if you have questions for me, save them up. We'll put them in the Q&A, and I'll take a little bit of time at the end to answer any questions that you guys have. I am so excited to be here with you guys all the way from South Carolina and Georgia and LA and Toronto. So I'm so glad. Thank you guys. Okay, I'm going to put the chat to the side for me so I don't get distracted, because it's hard for me to like do two things at one time. That's kind of the way I am. I'm really good at one focus. So today our workshop is going to be how to find the best antique chairs. And okay, so let me tell you, if you don't know me, just a brief history. My name is Wendy Conklin. I also answer to Chair Whimsy. That is my business, is Chair Whimsy. And I started chairs back in 2012. I took a couple of upholstery courses. I had always dabbled a little bit because I loved doing DIY projects, and I did not like having what everyone else had. I'm just one of those kind of people that, like, we move into a house, like if it's a cookie cutter house, I start changing the lights and the paint colors and everything because I want to be different. And I did not have the budget to be different and to hire anybody to do my chairs for me. And so I decided that I wanted to really learn it to do it right, because I had been trying to do it like with a book and things like that. It just was not going very well. Look okay from the front, but like don't look behind or underneath, or it looked really bad. And so I decided to take a couple courses, and I just loved it. I started redoing my dining chairs, and I had to take actually two courses back to back, because the first course, and this was an in-person course down in South Austin. I'm in the Austin, Texas area. And the first course, it was overwhelming. And I would go home and I'd be like, wait, what did I do in class? Like, I couldn't remember. Like, I took pictures, I tried to take really good notes, but I could not remember the steps. And so I ended up sadly having to retake that course. And like the course was like $450 each time. And so it was not cheap. And I had asked for the first course as my birthday present. So it was like, the second course, can I get it for Christmas? But I went ahead and took it the second time, and it started kind of sinking in after I was doing it again. And so I was really hooked. By the end of that second course, I had done like four little chairs and the settee that I'm sitting on here at my kitchen. And so I had finished. I thought, you know what? Let's just see if I could sell a few of these and get my money back. And so I put them on Etsy for really cheap because I didn't know what I was doing, right? And like within 2 weeks, I sold my first chair. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So now I have to figure out, um, I have to figure out how uh, I'm going to ship this thing. I didn't even know. And so anyway, it was like a lot of hard lessons, right? But I got it off, and it went to New York City from here. And then a few weeks later, I got more questions like, can you do custom orders? And I started kind of liking this. Now, let me tell you, my career at the time, I was an educator. And so I had been a teacher in a classroom, and I had been an author. I was writing educational curriculum and books and training teachers across the country. So I would travel for my company that I worked for in California called Teacher Created Materials. They have a very special place in my heart. And so I was just excited about, doing that job until I started doing chairs. And then I kind of stopped liking that job so much and kind of started liking chairs more. So it actually ended up turning into a career for me where I started doing chairs full time for clients. And I still do them. I still do custom orders. But back in 2019, I opened my DIY upholstery course. And I'll tell you about my course at the end. If you are interested in learning to do chairs too, I would love for you to join me. And I'll tell you about that at the end today. But I started just kind of teaching other people how to do it. And it was good because I've been a teacher, right? So it just really fit. So I am someone who, ever since I was young, have always loved chairs. And I know that that is a strange thing to admit. And I didn't ever want to tell people because I thought that's really kind of weird, right? And but I was watching a afternoon show back in the day, back in 2013, 2014. And I remember Nate Berkus had an afternoon show, and he was on there and he was talking about how he had this thing for chairs. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, so I am not alone. There are other people out there. And so anyway, I thought, okay, I don't need to be so embarrassed if Nate Berkus loves chairs too. Maybe I can admit that I do. And it's funny because as I say that, and I'll post it on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, I have other people commenting back, oh my gosh, I do too. And I was like, oh, this is so great. So, like, I think there's a whole secret society of us out there who really do love chairs. But I'm going to start with talking to you about what to look for in a chair, where I shop for my chairs because it's always changing. I'm finding better places. So I'm going to tell you my top places, and then I'll mention a couple others that you may want to check out, but I often don't find as much luck there, but you just never know, right? And then I'm going to talk about the potential and how you can change these chairs and what they look like, just to give you some design ideas. Because what I find is when I can see a picture of something, it gives me, oh my gosh, I could do this, but I could change that on it. So this will hopefully spark some really juicy, beautiful designs for you when you look for chairs. But I have a disclaimer first. Like I am not going to be responsible if this becomes you or if this becomes you after my training, which it often does because it's kind of addictive to buy a bunch of chairs. And honestly, I should have put a picture of my garage in here because my garage is full of chairs on one side of it. And I have them hanging from the rafters. I have them piled on top of each other. And I also have a storage unit. So, but I tell my husband, this is money, right? Because I'm selling them. So that kind of makes it a little nicer. And he doesn't seem to get upset about it. So he's great. So let's dive in on what to look for chairs when you're shopping for them, because I have often wasted money on a chair that later I really couldn't use for certain reasons. Either it was too short or just didn't work, or had a break on it that was not able to be fixed in a great way. And so I want to give you some pitfalls to look out for so that you don't waste your money too. And so hopefully you can just learn from my mistakes and not make them. So let's talk about what to look for. Let's first focus on the size of the chairs. A lot of the antique chairs are small, right? I don't know if people were just super tiny back then, and I think they probably were, but some are very, very short and low to the ground. And so one thing to look for is the size of the chair. Now, if you're hunting online, which I'm going to show you, that's my main way of hunting for chairs, there are some things that you need to watch for. And so I often get requests for this set of chairs, and people say, oh, I want these for my dining table. but they cannot work for a dining table because they sit very short. And one thing you can look at when you're looking at pictures is look at the length of the legs. And as you can see on these, the legs are really short on them. They are not tall legs. And that is one clue right there. If you're just looking at pictures, if the legs are really short, they're not going to work at a desk. It's not going to work at a dining table because your chin is basically going to be hitting the top of the table, right? Because it's sitting down really low. I do a lot of custom orders for older people, and they don't want chairs for their living room that even sit too low because it is hard for them to get up, right? They need the arms to help them get up, but sometimes these can get very low. And so I will tell people, well, I can't do these for dining chairs or a desk chair, but I can do them for a living room or bedroom or something like that if you just want to sit in it. Now, you also do want to ask the people that you're buying from, if you're communicating with them on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, how tall is that seat? Now, knowing that you can probably raise it an inch or so. By doing new upholstery on it, but you do want to pay attention to that. So that's one big pitfall, and I have been there and done that and purchased chairs that thought I could use for dining, and I really couldn't because they just ended up being too short. So watch for that size of that leg. Another thing you want to watch for the size of is the size of the seat. Now, these are really cute Victorian replica chairs. I just got a couple of these just the other day, and I love them. A lot of them were made in the 60s and 50s and even the 70s and 80s. They were kind of remakes, and they are really cute little Victorian chairs, right? But the word was little. And what I mean by little is the seat. So if you have a gigantic um, teenage son, who needs to sit on these chairs at a dining table, you do want to take into consideration the width of the seat and even the depth on some of these because they can be kind of short. But these in particular in this picture are very cute and they're adorable. And I could sit on it, right? But if I had a huge teenage son, it would not be a comfortable chair for him to sit on or a husband that was really big, large. So you do want to pay attention to that width of that seat before you go and purchase something, thinking about, oh, is that going to be comfortable for so and so, whoever's going to be sitting on it? If it's just you, then you can do whatever the heck you want with that, right? Also, I'm a big fan of putting settees at tables, but there are a few things you need to consider is the length of the settee. Right now, I'm at my kitchen table. I'm in a little nook here, and I have my kitchen table in front of me, and I have a settee behind me. But you need to watch out for if you want to put a settee at a table, you really need to have a long settee. And I would suggest doing a pedestal table in front of it. A pedestal table that is either round or oval. And the reason for that are the arms, because settees aren't things that you can scoot in and scoot out like you can a chair. They really need to be in one place. And so the key is to slide your body in and slide your body out without having to move the settee. So while this settee I have in this picture is adorable, it is small and those arms are going to get in the way. If I were to put that settee at my table, the arms are not going to work. So in general, like a 60-inch long settee typically can work, but you have to look at the table that you have. And I find a pedestal works best because the legs of the table will be in your way as well if you're trying to scoot in and scoot out. So those are just some things to be mindful of when you're planning something like this. Okay, so let's talk about the shape, what to look for. Now, the shape, the beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. Like we all have different things that we love. So there's not a right and wrong. And so what I've trained my eye to do that a lot of people can't do until you are conscious of it is just look at the shape of the chair. Do I like the shape? And ignore how dirty it is, maybe if it needs some repairs. It obviously will probably need new upholstery on it. And I have trained my eye to say, okay, do I like that shape of that chair? Because everything else can change. The finish can change, the fabric can change, but the shape of the chair is not going to change. Right. And so I look at this one and I think, okay, yeah, I love those little details. I love the carving. There's a little bit of a scallop along the bottom that makes it really unique. And so I do love this chair. And so I'm not going to hesitate if I see a chair like this, I'm not going to hesitate to buy it, right? Because it's going to be really attractive to me. Here's another one that I don't mind that the paint is peeling off of it. I don't mind that it's dirty, that, it's obviously needs a better seat on it because this probably had a cushion at one time. And so I would have to take off the seat and build it up with a tight seat. That's the way I like to do them personally. So I don't worry about how bad it all looks. I'm looking at the shape. Do I like that shape? Personally, yes, I love the French curvy type of chairs. So I would buy it, even though it looks like it's in terrible shape. I know I can change that, right? Here's another example. Notice the long legs, right? As opposed to the ones over on the far left, which would sit really low to the ground, and even the middle. These ones have really long legs. That's a huge clue that this is going to work at a dining table. It's going to work at a desk or a vanity if you needed it to. But that is not, for me, not attractive fabric, right? And so it was probably made back in the 80s or 90s. It had the shiny blonde wood on it. And I'm not against just natural wood, but it was real shiny, kind of out of date, right? But I totally ignore all of that. When I look at this, I can see, oh my gosh, that's an oval top. It's got a little carving on the top. It's got cute carvings on the legs. It's going to work beautifully as like in chairs at a dining table. And so I can ignore all of that. And honestly, you just have to train yourself to see it that way. Here's another one. This one is another little Victorian chair. Again, I love the shape of this. It's very cute, but you can see that seat is small, right? This is like what I was telling you on one of those other slides. Watch for the sides of the seat. Um, but I'm not crazy about the tufting on it. But you know what? I can absolutely take that out and change it. And I could change the finish of this chair to suit my taste and what I love. So I'm going to go for it, right? And again, longer legs. So I know this is probably going to work at a table if I want it to. Here's another one. This is called a shield back chair. And I got this chair for $5 at an antique store. And I just loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm grabbing this. Because even though it was coming apart with the tufting and things like that, I thought, oh, I can totally change it. I'm not even going to worry about I'm getting this. So it's really, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you love it, you can change it. Just look at the shape only. And then here's another one. I am a sucker for French fluted legs. I didn't care that it was stained on the fabric. I thought, you know what, this is adorable. It's got beautiful carvings on it. I can change up that finish if I want, change up the fabric. So I'm going to go for that chair because it's something I really like. So again, when you see a shape of a chair, just ignore everything else because you can change the rest of it, but you can't change the shape. Okay. That's not going to change. One little tip I want to say, if you are a beginner in upholstery or want to start, avoid buying chairs like you see here because they have curved backs on them. And these curved backs are much more difficult to do if you're a beginner. Now, that's not to say that you can't do them eventually because you totally can. It's not rocket science to learn, right? But if you're just beginning, my bias as a teacher is do something that you can be successful on because you're practicing. You're practicing how to do the fabric, how to put in the staples, or whatever. And so chairs like these will take you forever to do. And you might be really frustrated that you would never want to do something again. And that's not the goal. Like, my goal as a teacher is to have my students do things that they can succeed at first, the first time around, and then they can progress to something like this because it just takes a lot of release cuts in the back that you have to pull through. Sometimes you do need some buttons to hold that fabric in on a curved back. So save these for later once you get the basics under your belt, and then you can totally tackle these kind of chairs. But that's just my tip for today so that you're not frustrated and want to give up on something. Just don't start with something like this, but this is definitely something that you can do, right? So that's just my opinion and bias on that. Take it or leave it, but I think you'd be happier if you take it. Okay, so what to look for in age of the chairs. So these are, antique chairs. They do have a shelf life, right? I mean, I am all about repairing chairs and not being afraid if they're wobbly from front to back, because that is something you can take apart and put back together with a really good epoxy or type of glue and make them just as good as new. But at some point, the chairs will give. And so, it just depends on how much wear and tear they get. So think about your relatives. If your relatives are really heavier people and they come to have dinner every Sunday evening with you or every holiday, you're going to want to consider the type of chair you're allowing them to sit on, right? And so tiny little chairs are not going to hold up as long as more sturdy, bold chairs. So there are some antique chairs that are absolutely freaking amazing, right? So the one on the right here is are very similar to my chairs that I have in my living room. I took this picture. It was a picture of a client chair that I did, and yes, this chair is over 100 years old, but it is super sturdy and it's going to hold up. So I can let anyone come over and sit in that chair and they're going to be comfortable. Whereas the chairs on the left have more dainty legs. And so those are things that, yes, they will last after I've done repairs on them for quite a while. But if I allowed my overweight relatives to come and sit in them, that might not be the most comfortable thing, first of all, for them. And it'll probably put a lot of wear and tear on the chair. So you want to be mindful of who's sitting in these chairs, right? And how long they're going to last for you. And so my clients who ordered these chairs on the left, they didn't mind at all. They knew they know they are antique chairs, but they just love them. So they had to have them. And I have chairs like that too in my home as well because I love them, right? Okay, so that's what to look for and be aware of so you don't make mistakes. But where to shop for chairs? Okay, this is like the really fun part. I love antiquing. And when I get to go have fun and do something, whatever I want to do, that's what I'm going to end up doing. So let me tell you about my favorite places. So I love to go in person when I can. It's not always convenient though, depending on where you live. Because we've got people around the world here on this webinar, and so it really is. It's going to depend on where you live. But let me talk about first flea markets. Flea markets are my favorite places. We have a really big one here in Round Top. It's between Houston and Austin. That happens twice a year. And I was really sad because I didn't get to go this spring. I had too many things on my daily agenda that I had to get done. I didn't get to go up there. But I often go fill up my car and then I have to leave at that point because I can't fill anything else. It's like, all right, I'm done shopping. My car is completely full. But I absolutely love flea markets. So you may want to check online in your area. I know the Northeast of the United States has some really great flea markets that happen in the summer. So check to where you can find flea markets because you never know what you're going to find. But because they're usually pretty big, flea markets, you can usually find some chairs at flea markets. And when I go through, man, I am scanning the place for chair. Where are the chairs? Where are the chairs? So I'm a very fast shopper and I'm only looking for chairs when I go there. Antique shops are another great place to go to find great chairs, but it's really kind of hit or miss, right? Are you going to find any? I've got a really cute little antique mall here in my town, and I just went last week, and they had a couple chairs, but the month before they had a few more chairs, and someone had purchased them up, and so I didn't get them. I thought sometimes I wait. I'm like, well, I'll go back, and then I go back, and they're not there. But if you happen to live in the Houston area, there's a really amazing one that I recommend. And I haven't been in a couple years, but I did go several times. And it's called Global Surplus Liquidators. And they have tons of amazing chairs. There is an amazing chair place in Savannah, Georgia called Jerry's Chairs. And it is, like filled with chairs, but they also have other things like dressers and dishes and same thing with this Global Surplus Liquidators. So if you happen to be in the Houston area, here's a good tip. I love this place. You may have to make an appointment to go. So you always want to call to make sure you don't have to have an appointment to be able to go in. But oh my gosh, it's so tempting when you go to places like this. It's hard to hold myself back. There's there's yard sales that pop up here and there, garage sales. I don't see these as often anymore. I mean, but when I drive by, guess what I'm looking for? I'm just scanning. Are there any chairs over there? Often, yeah, I don't see them, but every now and then we may be able to find something. Okay, so Facebook Marketplace. This is my number one place for shopping for chairs. When I'm looking for something for a client or for myself, I go to Facebook Marketplace now. So I just went in the other day and searched for some chairs. I took a screenshot of my search and I put in the word antique chair. And I will put in the word French chair. I will put in the word Victorian chair or chairs and see what pops up. But if I put in antique chair, this is what popped up for me. And it scrolled for quite a while. But one thing to always pay attention to is to go down to where the delivery method and local pickup are and click on that. And then always select local pickup because otherwise it's going to show you things from far away. And they will say that the people will ship them, but you do have to pay often for shipping in that. Sometimes the shipping is cheap, but then I'm worried that the chair is going to break. So just be aware. And so when I select local pickup, that tells me, okay, Wendy, you can go get in your car and pick it up today if you want it, right? And so you see chairs in different prices here, all the way from $300 for the pair of chairs to the $30 chair next to it, another $30 chair on the far end, and then down at the bottom there's a free one. There's a $10 one, 65 and 60, and then sometimes there's chairs that are like $800 on here, and they're beautiful, yes, but so you have to decide how much you're willing to spend on a chair. For me, it depends. Like if it's just for me and I'm going to keep it for my home, I am willing to spend a little more, right? But if I'm wanting to flip this chair, I want to get the best possible deal so that my profit margin is good. So I don't want to buy an $800 chair if I'm going to flip it to sell. But if it was something that was going to be special for my house, I don't know. It'd have to be pretty special, but I might do it, right? So I might do a $500 chair or a pair of chairs if it was something that was super cool, super special, and it was going to go in my own home, right? So you have to make your own decision on what you're going to spend for chairs. But there are some people in my upholstery course who are like, I don't ever go over $50 for a chair. So, it does limit you. And you can search by price over to the left. So if you don't even want to be tempted, put in from $0 to $50 and see what pops up, and then that way you're not like feeling like, oh, I really want that $800 chair, when you're just going to flip to sell and you won't make any money off of it, right? So those are just a couple tips to be aware of. But Facebook Marketplace is one of my favorite places to shop. Craigslist is also another place that if I can't find what I'm looking for on Facebook Marketplace, I go over to Craigslist, and it's not as good as it used to be because most people are listing on Marketplace, but some people list on both, and some people still only go to Craigslist. So it's always good to give it a check out. So you over to the far right, you pick where you live and where you want to search. I mean, you can search in Canada. I know we've got a couple of you from Canada. You can search from there. There's other countries that you can even search from if you live in another country. So you'll have to check that out and see if it applies to where you live. And then you select the US cities and they'll pop up. And so I select Austin because I'm in the Austin area. When I search on here, I usually look in two of the categories. The first one is the antiques category that I will search. And the second one is the furniture category. And I search for chairs in both because some people who list their chairs on here will choose one or the other. Some of them put them on both, right? But I always search both just to make sure I haven't missed anything. And that helps me to be a little more pointed with my search on here, and I'm not pulling up French refrigerators, right? So when I go on here, here's an example. I'm in Antiques by Owner. I usually like to look at the owner, although some dealers have good things on here, but often there are lots of dealers on here with mattresses and French refrigerators. So if I'm searching for French chairs, sometimes refrigerators will pop up. So I do like to search by owner. Um, and I always click the has image because I'm wasting my time, right? If I'm looking at a listing that doesn't have a picture, like why would I even care? And so you can see the varied prices on here of things, so those one in the top left, 1,200 bucks. I mean, for 4 chairs, that's beyond what I would want to spend. But again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There's one for 150 for that pair of chair. Oh, they're 150 each. Sorry. Yeah. So that's a lot for one of those little chairs. And is it really worth it to me? So you have to make that own decision. But this is typically how I search when I'm on Craigslist. And I was just on it this past week looking for some chairs. Some precautions that I take. I don't like to go inside people's homes. I mean, some people, if it's the little old lady, I don't mind, but I feel scared for them actually if they're inviting me in. I mean, like I'm a safe person, right? But you often wonder. But I usually ask them to put it outside the house. Most of them, I went to pick up a chair last weekend, and the woman, she answered the door. She said, "Just a minute." And she came and brought the chair to the doorway. Which, okay, that's what I prefer. Some people will have it in their garage and they'll raise up their garage and I can take a look at it there. So I typically prefer that. It's just a little safer, especially when you go by yourself to pick up chairs. I always ask you, do you take Venmo? Or, I don't like using PayPal, but that's another option. But Venmo is a way I like to pay because who has cash, right? And so with Venmo, I can, transfer money very easily to them by just scanning it with my phone. So if you don't have Venmo, you may want to download the app and connect your bank account to it because it's a very easy way to pay and not have to pay with cash. I always wipe it down and put it in my garage or storage because often these chairs are really dirty and filthy, and I'm not going to bring them into my house right away. So, especially before I kind of strip them down and change everything about them. So, those are just kind of my precautions that I take. So, some things to think about as you're gathering chairs to do for projects. eBay is another great place to search for chairs, but you do have to pay shipping if it's not in your area. And sometimes it will have free local pickup. So you see on this first listing right here, they do a free local pickup. So I'd have to click on that listing and find out where they located. That's a cute chair for 155 bucks. I'd probably buy it, honestly, because I could turn around and sell that for $1,500 and redo it. And so I'd make a decent profit margin on it. So there is often freight shipping for some of these chairs, but you do have to pay shipping. So it's just that extra little thing to know about. But if you get really desperate, look at eBay because they've got some cute stuff. Cherish is another really great site to search for a bunch of home decor things. I mean, like it promise you, it's very addicting, but you will notice their prices are high. So this would be a place I would go if I'm searching maybe for something for just me and I want something really unique. Some of these chairs you don't need to redo because they've been kept in really great condition. So you will spend more money, but let me tell you why. Cherish does take 30% from their buyers or their sellers. So their sellers on here have to give 30% of the sale to Cherish. Now, I used to be on Cherish a long time ago, but when I realized my profit margin wasn't going to be great, I pulled it off and they came back and begged me to come back. But I just was like, I just had to tell them, guys, I can't afford the 30%, So it's not a great place to sell. For that very reason, but they do have some beautiful things if you're willing to spend more money, and that's totally your prerogative to do. Now, here's my second favorite after, eBay or not, sorry, after Facebook Marketplace, and Craigslist is okay now, but really my second favorite place are online auctions. And you might have an auction in your town that you can bid online for. And so if you go to liveauctioneers.com, this will tell you if you can find auctions near you. So if you see the little drop down under find auctions over to the left, I dropped it down and it'll say auctions near me. So you'll click on that and put in your zip code and it'll pop up what auctions are near you if there are any. There are tons of these that take place all over the United States for sure. I know, and like I could bid on things in New York or in California if I want to, but then it has to be shipped. So I got to pay for the shipper to bring it to me, and it depends if it's super special and I'm really looking for that super special thing, like heart chairs, heart Victorian chairs are kind of hard to find. So if you ever find those, snatch them up if you can get them for a decent price because they are hard to find. So that might be something that I might be willing to have shipped to me. So search for them near you. So what I do is it's usually 3 weeks before the auctions happen. I get an email, I get on their email list, I get their email, hey, our auction's coming up. So I click on it and I go in and I heart different things that I like or I place a bid on them. And this bid is good until someone else outbids me. And the day of the auction, it goes live. And if I still have the highest bid, it's going live with my bid. And someone most of the time does outbid me because I set my limit. Like this can be, you do need to be careful because it can be like gambling, right? I mean, like you can just get like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna spend so much money on this. So you have to set how high you're gonna go, and you can put in, here's my bid now, but I will go this high, and it will stop you being charged. Once it goes above that, someone else gets it. So set your limit and don't budge on it. Like do it ahead of time, I would say, unless you want to be there for the live event, but it kind of hijacks your whole day. So I don't typically do that, but I do love liveauctioneers.com. It's a really great site, and I've gotten a ton of chairs off of there, and because mine is local, I can just go pick them up. So I really love that. Okay, now this is the fun part. This is the potential. This is why I do this. And so I'm hoping that these designs will give you some ideas of what is possible. So remember that ugly chair with the paint peeling off? It ended up being this one on the right. I ended up stripping it down. I used a stripper on this one, then I had to sand the heck out of it, so it's not fun work, but the end result makes me do it sometimes. And so this is what I ended up with. I used a super great blanket that I found on eBay on this chair, and I just positioned it the way I wanted. And it's a very heavy cotton with embroidery on it. And I did this for a client, and she just loved it. So she was one of these strange clients that wanted to be surprised, which makes me a little nervous, but it was fun designing this one, and she ended up really loving it. So that was great. Okay, so these chairs on the left, I had a neighbor message me and say, Wendy, she texted, there's a set of these chairs down the street. There's 6 of them, and someone just put them on the curb. They're for free. And I was like, oh my gosh, go down and get them, please. Would you put them at your house, and then I will come get them? And so I transformed them into what you see over here on the right. I used Mexican textiles on them, beautiful colored velvet seats to match each one, and painted them black. And I just love transforming things because while they were beautiful on the left, it's just more of a formal look, and I wanted kind of a more bohemian look. And so I did this for a client, and it turned out really, really pretty. Okay, so these chairs on the left are not great, right? And they had cane in them. And a lot of times I do like cane on my chairs, but there is something special when you can upholster it too. And so I took out the cane, painted the chair frames a cute yellow, and put in this really fun floral. And then I put on this vinyl black seat on them. And this set, along with this table that I painted and embellished on the sides, and I put a bench with it. This actually went to a struggling family here in Austin at Christmas time who had a bunch of kids, and they were immigrants. And I was able to design this for them and donate to them. And it just made me so happy to be able to do something like that. And that's the great thing, is when you can do chairs, which a lot of people cannot, you can create some amazing gifts for people and also help people out who are in need. I mean, there's nothing better than that for me. And so this was just really fun to transform what really wasn't great into something that was really actually super cute. Okay, so you might often find that you find chairs that have big cushions on them, and maybe you are like me and you don't know how to sew, right? So I take off the cushions and I make a tight seat and a tight top on it. That's how I like to transform the chairs, to me, because I don't sew, and I only sew the cording, the double welt cord is all I know how to sew. And it's not something I want to learn, honestly. But if you know how to sew, heck, man, you could just go ahead and do the cushions if you wanted to. But I went ahead and transformed it into something without a cushion. So just to show you that it's possible to be able to do this. Here's another example I just finished last month for a client. The chair was not beautiful over on the left, but I took it and painted it a really fun blue paint, and put this really great fabric by Vervain. That's a fabric by the yard, and my client is just thrilled with this. So, I mean, it's really fun to try to envision what you can do on these chairs. Here's another one. I just finished this last month too. It's a recent chair, and it had cane on it, but I took out that cane and I upholstered the top, and I put a furry seat on it. So, you can get these furry seats. You can get the real pelts, or you can get faux fur, because faux fur is very inexpensive to redo on chairs. But this one actually is a real fur on it. And that is a fabric from the UK. It's a Designers Guild fabric, and it is really expensive, but man, it's beautiful, right? So I ended up loving that one. Here's an example of how you can take some chairs that are very traditional, and they aren't ugly, right? I mean, but they're just traditional. And my client really wanted something. She had a really cool downtown apartment with really bold colored walls and just very interesting art. And so we ended up choosing this fabric. This is an Osborne and Little fabric. It's a velvet. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. And all I did to the frame was just clean it up. I did not paint these. I just left the gold leaf on them, but I just cleaned it because they were very dirty. And they just turned out spectacular, right? So these were a pair of sitting chairs. You notice the short legs on them. Here's another really cute one that I took, and I do an ugly chair challenge a couple times a year. I'll be doing another one in August. So if you have not experienced my ugly chair challenge, oh my gosh, you need to do it, because it is all about chair design, and how you can take an ugly chair and make it amazing, and my whole process for that. But this is a little chair that I found, and so I transformed it for my ugly chair challenge. And what I used for the top fabric was a wall hanging that I found on eBay, and it has these cool little beads all over it, really cool patchwork of fabrics on it. And I decided, I want to use that on the top of the chair, and then I'll put something more durable like velvet on the seat so that it's comfortable to sit on. And so you can totally do things like wall hangings on your chairs. Here's another example of chairs that I did for a couple out in California. And the embroidery was really dirty, it was dated, the chairs were really in bad shape and needed a lot of repairs. They were wobbly. So I stripped them down, took them apart, re-put everything back. I used JB Weld, by the way, in case you're looking for a good adhesive. I do not use wood glue ever. I always use JB Weld, and it's the formula that has a black and a red tubes, and then you mix it together, and then it forms a really strong epoxy that has steel in it. So it really does the job, and they do not come wobbly ever after that. They're really amazing. So anyway, I painted it, distressed the frame just a little bit, and put an amazing floral on the top with a beautiful raspberry velvet seat. So it's amazing what you can do with chairs, right? I mean, this makes it really great. Now, those cute chairs I told you that have smaller seats on them, but they're really cute and we all really love them. Here's what they look like on the left. And so, you can take all that off, take off the tufting, and redo them to where they don't have that. And again, I used a wall hanging on the tops of these that was a horizontal wall hanging that was really amazing. And I found it on eBay, and it's embroidered. All that is embroidery on it. So, and they are not expensive. I think for that long wall hanging that covered all 4 chairs front and back, I think I paid like $89 or something like that for it. So it's really inexpensive for something that's embroidered, and it's an authentic textile. Here's another example of that little chair that I say, well, I don't really like the tufting. I took it off. I stripped the frame and stripped down the finish off of it. and really sanded those. I mean, that's a messy mess, but I'm going to tell you, I loved how it turned out. So it was worth it to me. I guess I could say in the end, it's worth it to me. But I put a Mexican textile on top. I put velvet seats on both of these, and I made an orange and a blue one. That was really super fun. Here's another one that looked like it had kind of traditional dated fabric on it. It was kind of a velour, striped, and I took it off and painted them black, put Mexican textiles on them. And I mean, you just see with just new paint, new fabric, how you can just bring these things to life. Here's that cute settee I told you about. What it looked like was over on the left, and it had more of a shiny finish. It had this dated fabric that was a little dirty, and so I took it down, I sanded off the shininess and put a protective wax on top of it, and then used a blanket that I found on eBay for this. And again, these blankets are like less than $100, and they can cover a whole settee front and back. So that I really liked how that turned out. That's one of my favorite pieces. I had a client who needed some really fun chairs for an Airbnb. And so I found this set on the left. And you notice a lot of them have cane in it, and she didn't want cane. So I do what my clients want, right? And I took it out and then I upholstered the top and did the seat. And we did just an eclectic set because she was going to place these little chairs all over the Airbnb, and she wanted something really bold and fun. And we just kind of went for it with these. So that was a lot of fun to design those. And here's another set that on the left, they didn't look very attractive, but they really turned out to be really cute and beautiful. With on the right, they have a beautiful floral, and this is a Designers Guild floral, again from the UK. The UK has such amazing fabrics, honestly. And that's the same floral, but I positioned it different ways all over the chair, so they look a little different from each other, but they all go together. So that's another idea when you have a really busy floral, just changing where the flowers are going to be can make it look like, oh, they're all a little different, but they really do blend and work well. Okay, here's another one that I had in my bathroom for a while. That one I showed you at the front that I said, oh, it's really cute. Well, this is what I ended up doing with it. I have a friend who's an artist. Her name is Carrie Schmidt, and her art is amazing. She teaches people how to paint and all kinds of things, does retreats for painters. But we took her painting and put it on velvet fabric, and I put it on this chair. We collaborated together on this. So if you ever want to do that, you do need to contact the artist to get their permission to do it. You should never rip off people's art, but it's a fun thing that you can do. And I left it kind of rustic, so I cleaned up the frame, left the arms kind of bare, and because I kind of liked that for this chair. It's just a look I was experimenting with for a while. Now, these are both sets of chairs that are falling apart. They've seen their better days, right? They're kind of dated, but they are interesting, right? I'm always on the lookout for really interesting chairs. And so I had found this, what we call, I've heard people call it a tulip chair, a Hollywood Regency chair, all kinds of names that can go with this one on the left. And then the other ones on the right are Victorian little chairs. And I don't know if you may not know this, but last fall I was on a TV show on the Magnolia Network with my friend Sarah from Simply Southern Cottage, and we had to redo her dining room for this TV show. It was called In with the Old, and it aired in November. And so, if you're interested in watching it, I can tell you which one it is. But it's the mysterious yellow house episode on In with the Old, and I'm on it. They come to my workshop, and so I did these chairs for Sarah. And so the chairs that are over here, the one on the left, those are my in chairs. The one on the right are the middle chairs, and then the ones that you see her and I standing next to right there, those are the ones that you also see. And look at how fun this turned out. I mean, it was amazing. We had picked a really great wallpaper, and then I just designed these with super fun fabrics. And I mean, like, really, the sky is the limit on this kind of thing. So, this is what I do chairs for. It's not for the act of upholstery, it's for the design, honestly, because it lets me be creative, and it's like you can really design anything that you can dream up, you can do. Okay, so I've talked to you about what to look for, where to shop, the potential. Hopefully you're fired up and you have ideas that if you already know how to upholster, you can take back and do. Maybe you want to learn to upholster chairs. And so I wanted to share with you that I do have an online course for beginners. And I do have people coming to me saying, "Hey, do you teach people?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then people are like, "Can I come to your workshop?" And I'm like, "No, because I don't have enough space." But what I can say is I do have an online course. And I know that a lot of people feel like online courses, they have a bias, like, "Oh, I can't learn as good if I'm not in person." But let me assure you, as a teacher, um, that it is the best way to learn how to do upholstery. And let me tell you why, because you will need to rewind and rewatch those lessons several times. And then you may take a break and then you want to go back and do a chair as a gift. So you need to go back to the video and watch it again because you will forget. And I can tell you that that happened to me. And I had to pay for a course in person twice. And so I decided that the best way, instead of opening my place for in person workshops, was to do an online course because this gives people the opportunity to review what they've just learned. And we all need it. Like personally, I do too. And so this is my course for beginners. Um, it has 7 modules in it, and these range anywhere from like a 20-minute module to an hour module, depending on what I'm teaching you in it and what you need to learn. And so I talk about how to strip down a chair, to take off all the fabric, because there's a good way of doing this, right? That is much easier than just trying to rip it off. How to do repairs on your chairs, because honestly, almost every antique chair needs a repair. It may be a wobbly top, it may be a wobbly seat, it may be a wobbly leg or an arm. And so I talk to you about how to do this and what to use, and I give you examples, and you see me doing it in this. I talk about fabrics because honestly, that's like I told you guys, that's like the whole reason I do chairs is for the fabrics. And so how do I search for fabric? So you see me in a fabric store shopping and explaining to you guys how I'm picking out my fabrics and what I'm looking for. I talk about how to paint a chair. And some of you may already know how to paint, but there's plenty of people who have never painted furniture and they need some tips and tricks. So I share all my favorite products. But again, if you're a painter, you have your favorites, right? And so I share what mine are. If you want to use them, go at it. If you don't, you can skip that module. And then I talk about how to upholster the top of the chair. And then the next module is how to upholster the seat of the chair, and then all the finishing touches. So the only thing that I teach that would require sewing would be in the finishing touches when I teach how to do double welt cord. Now, it is the only thing I know how to sew, but let me also say that if you don't want to even sew double welt cord, I have you covered because you don't have to. There are other trims that you can use on your chairs, and oftentimes I will use a different kind of trim instead of double welt cord. I did it on Sarah's chairs that were on TV. I did a few chairs with something called a GIMP. And so I talk about that. There's pom pom trim. You can get double welt that's already sewn for you and put it on if you want to do that. So there's all kinds of ways, nail head trim that you can use. You don't have to be able to sew, but it's the only thing that would require. If you wanted to learn double welt cord, I have you covered. And let me also say that if you doubt if you can learn it, listen, if I can learn to do double welt cord, anybody can learn to do it. Before I had my sewing machine, I would go down to the upholstery course place where I took my courses and use their machines and pay them for time of being in there by the hour. And I would go in and sew my welt cord, and they would call me Welt Cord Wendy, because that's all I would do is just go in there and sew a bunch of welt cord, and then I would leave and I'd pay them for the time I spent there. So that was kind of my nickname, but it's the only thing I know how to sew. So if you're feeling worried about that and you would like to learn, I will assure you that if I can do it, you can do it. And I teach you how to do it. And it's not hard at all. Some of the questions I get about it is, can you start whenever you want? Like I've got commitments for the next month, but I'd like to be able to start beginning of June when summer comes on. I'm ready to take on a fun project for the summer. Absolutely. Once you join the course, you get to start whenever you want. You could start right that hour if you want, or if you want to wait a few weeks or even a month or a year, it doesn't matter. You can start whenever you want. You can rewatch the modules as many times as you need to. There's no limit. It's not going to ever cut off. You will have lifetime access to it. So you can always go back at any point and watch the videos. We also have a private Facebook group that you can join, that if you get stuck on something and you want to ask some questions, you just pop into the group, you post your question, and we all jump in to help. Or that's also a great Facebook group where people are posting their chairs saying, look at my first chair. And they're so excited about it. And they're like, don't look too close, but I did it, you know? And I can assure you that once you've done one chair, the second chair is faster, the third chair is even faster than that, and then you just get in a groove, and it's not hard at all to do. So it's definitely something that you can learn to do. And so these are just kind of the features. These are some of the chairs that my students have created, some of their first chairs, and they're so proud of it. And look at how they're expressing their personality in these chairs. And this is why I do it, because I love being creative and dreaming up ideas, and expressing my personality on the chair, or the personalities of my clients if I'm doing chairs for them. And so this just shows you it is so possible to learn and to do all kinds of chairs with it. So this is what makes it so fun. I even have some clients who decide to turn it into a business. And so this was an example of one of the ladies who posted in our Facebook group. She's ready to ship these little cuties out to the client. And isn't that fun? So like really the sky is the limit. You can do anything you want to do and have a blast with it, really. And so the possibilities are truly endless with doing this. And so, you know, when I first started, I didn't know that I wanted to start a business with it. But it was something that just kind of gradually grew in me, and I loved doing them. And people often ask, you have trouble letting go of your chairs? And I'm like, no, because like I do so many, it's like there's no way my house could contain all these chairs. And I can always make chairs for myself, and I do, which is really fun. But some people make them as gifts to give maybe their daughter-in-law who's marrying their son. I've had people like that. People give them as baby presents, you know, little tiny kid chairs or a nursery chair. Some people do it as an anniversary or wedding chairs. We've had a his and her chair. So like when you are the person that can give a gift of chairs, I mean, like you are the favorite friend, right? Like my friends love me, not just because I give them chairs, but you know, it's kind of the special thing that you can do that nobody else can do. And so, but it could be something that you want to turn into a business, which is so fulfilling and fun. And you could just, you know, sell locally if you want to, out of a boutique or antique mall if you want to. And so I've got, if you sign up for my DIY upholstery course, I've got bonuses that I'm going to share with you that you get when you sign up this time around. And if you sign up by tomorrow night, so I have one of these bonuses that's going to expire, and it's this one. And it's a live masterclass that I've recorded that talks about how to turn your chair hobby into a business. And in this, I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes or hour and 15 minutes long. I spill all the beans, like how do you ship? What do you charge? You know, all the things. So if you think that you might want to do this as a business, you're going to want this bonus, because honestly, I don't hold anything back in this masterclass. And this is a masterclass that I do sell separately for just $200. So if you're just only interested in that, you can always get it. But this is a free bonus that I'm giving but it expires at Sunday night at midnight. Okay. But if you're interested and you think you'd like to do this, you're going to get this bonus. I also have another training on how to print your own fabric from art. So you remember me talking about my friend Carrie Schmidt, who we put her art on fabric. My daughter paints a lot of Fridas. And so I have put my daughter's Frida heads on fabric as well. And so here's an example of one of her Fridas that I'm standing with this chair. And so it's just so much fun. So this is just a little extra training that you're going to get on how to print your own fabric from art. Another one is my Sourcing Swoon-Worthy Fabrics online course. And it talks about and teaches where to search online for really good fabric. So you're going to get this free course that I typically sell for free. So I always love to give bonuses because it just makes it more fun, right? I also have one called free, a pattern mixing with a hero fabric. So if you notice on these chairs over here, when you're looking at the top of them, they all have this amazing floral, and that is a hero fabric. But all the seats of these chairs are different. Even the back sides are different. You can see that one facing you. And so it's about pattern mixing. And honestly, this is one of my most favorite things to do is to figure out how to take a hero fabric and how to mix a bunch of different other patterns with it and still make it looks like it goes together as a set. And so this is just a really fun example right here that you can see that I did for a client that just turned out so super cute. So you get this free training, pattern mixing with the hero fabric. And then you're also going to get my Spoonflower favorite picks download. So I have over 200 fabrics inside this download that are all hyperlinked. So all these little squares you see on these other little things at the bottom, you basically just click on it and it opens up the Spoonflower fabric right there so you can see it. And then I have a little video on how to navigate Spoonflower that kind of goes with this that you can watch. It's like a 15-minute short video that just shows you, you know, how to hunt on Spoonflower. Because if you have ever hunted fabrics on Spoonflower, and if you don't know about Spoonflower, oh girl, I'm assuming we're all women in here. If not, you know, men are welcome too, but it is overwhelming to search on Spoonflower, right? And so I know that personal experience. I also know that a lot of my students have had trouble, and people that follow me have trouble finding really great fabrics on Spoonflower. So I have over 200 hyperlinked in here, and I categorize them. I have florals, I've got checks and stripes, I've got chinoiserie, I've got some other ones in here, and that are my favorite picks. You get that, and you get this Spoonflower bonus to help you to not be so overwhelmed when you're on Spoonflower. And one reason I like Spoonflower is that no matter if you live in South Africa or if you live in Canada, or if you live in Mexico, it doesn't matter where you live, they ship to you. And so that's a really good thing. And they also have really good prices on their fabrics. So as far as Spoonflower fabrics, I talk about in here my favorite ones, because they have all these different kinds of material that you can order with the same print. And so what are my favorites? And so I put all that inside this favorite picks so that you will know that. So you get all this for free. This is all bonuses that you're going to get. And then one last bonus. The first 10 people that sign up are going to get a one-on-one call with me, and you can ask me anything on those calls. So it's like these coffee chats I like to do. You are going to get invited to do a call with me. We'll do it over Zoom, or we could do it over the phone if you'd prefer that. But it's typically great to do it over Zoom, because you get to see me and I get to see you, and we can talk, or you can show me fabrics. You know, so we can talk about anything you want to talk about. It's totally open game. So the first 10 people will get that one-on-one call with me. So I'm going to cut that off after 10 people. And the price of the course is $347. So the value of what you're getting in this is really big. And I told you my in-person class cost me $450. So it's a really good deal. But I have a payment plan of $67 for 6 months if you need a payment plan. But to get to this, it's chairwhimsy.com/course. But I want to tell you about one more thing, because I have gotten a couple of emails this week from people who they really want to do something creative and they want to do something for the summer that's creative for them. Maybe they're a mother and they want it for Mother's Day tomorrow, but they're worried because, you know, we all go to the grocery store, right? And we're all seeing our bills go up in what we're having to pay. And so I decided last night, and I've never done this before, but for those who are struggling and you really want to do something creative, I decided that I am going to add a payment option, and it's not even on the website at all. So for this payment option, you do need to email me and I can send you the direct link. I have not had my web designer put it up there because I'm not sure if people are going to want this or not yet, but I just started thinking last night, and then I got up this morning. I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can add this option, and it's just $39.99 for 10 months. And so it just stretches it out for you to make it a little easier. And what you need to do if you want this, you would just need to send me an email, info@chairwhimsy.com, and I will send you the link to where you can go into that payment option. It's not, like I said, it's not on my website. It's something I put together this morning. if there is anybody who feels like they need it, and I can do that. So that works for me if it works for you. So I'm not sure if anybody's going to want it, but in case you do, um, you can access that. But I want to tell you about one more thing that you'll see that will pop up if you are wanting to get my DIY upholstery course is my fabric mixology course, and it opens at the same time my Chair Whimsy online upholstery course opens. And it is a class that teaches you how to mix and match fabrics, right? It is talks about color coordination. That mixing patterns using a hero fabric is a free module you're getting if you sign up for DIY upholstery. But if you want the fabric mixology course, it includes all these other things like mixing with a color scheme, how to break the rules and go your way, how to source great fabrics is another one on there. Exploring the style of the rooms with fabrics is another bonus. And you can add fabric mixology onto for 99 bucks if you're interested. And some people like that and some people don't care. So that is also an option. And you'll see and check out how you can add that on for $99 if you want it. So some people ask if there's a start and an end date. There is not. You can start whenever you want. I've also had people ask if I'm not very crafty, can I learn? And I will tell you, you can. There are people who I've had accountants, a woman who was an accountant who decided to take my ugly chair challenge. And she was just so like, oh my gosh, this can itch that creative bone or creative scratch that I'm having, or maybe it's the opposite way around. You're scratching the itch that she's had, but she didn't think she was that crafty or creative. And because I've been a teacher, like I can assure you that it is something you can learn because I'm a very concrete, sequential type of teacher. Like, okay, you do this first, then you do this next, and you do this. And you can probably tell by the way I'm teaching on this, what to look for, what to be aware of. I really talk you off the cliff of anything you might be afraid of, and anyone can learn upholstery. It is just a series of steps, honestly. Do you need to know how to sew? Well, I've answered this one. Only if you want to do double welt cord. If you just have a regular machine and you're worried about it, there are different kinds of a foot that you can get that is special for double welt cord that we can put you in the right direction to get for your machine and you can learn. But there are other trims that you can do and you do not need to sew at all. What about supplies? So I have a link inside the course that has a link to all the supplies and where you can order them on Amazon if you're interested. Or you can go to a local upholstery supply shop and get them or other places online. But I have everything hyperlinked in case you want to use that. Will you tell me where you get your fabrics if I'm in this course? Yes, absolutely. You can always send me a picture, say, Wendy, where'd you get this floral fabric? And I'm like, oh, that's this name. And you can search for it here, or you can get it here in these other places. And so what about tools? What kind of tools do I need to do upholstery? So I am not a kind of person that likes to spend a lot of money on tools. So I'm very basic. So I do suggest that you get a pneumatic stapler and a compressor. Now, I happen to have a really big one because I'm doing tons of chairs all day long. You can get a tiny one. And that's what I started with a little tiny one, a 1-gallon compressor. You can use a handheld stapler if you want, but it is harder on the hands. So I'm just going to be honest with you. It's possible and it's doable. And some people have used electric staplers, and I know some are better than others, right? But this is the easiest. It does not hurt your hands to use. It's very fast. It's very quick. And so a pneumatic stapler with a compressor, and mine happens to be a quiet compressor. Now, you can still hear it, right? It still rumbles, but it's not as loud as other compressors. So I have all of this hyperlinked inside the course if you're interested in any of these tools, but this is what I recommend. Over to the right, obviously you need a pair of scissors, right? If you're going to cut fabric, you need a mallet and you need a staple lifter and some kind of pliers. I love needle nose pliers. Those are like $5. The mallet is usually about $10. A staple lifter, I think, is like $18. And then this little thing over to the far left in the bottom, these run anywhere from like $9 to $12. It's called a metal regulator. And it helps you to tuck strings in, to tuck the fabric if it's hanging out, too far, things like that under your trim. And so I happen to love that. It's not a necessity, but it's like my favorite tool out of everything. And I have all of these hyperlinked within the course as well, where you can get them on Amazon. And I have different size compressors to choose from. If you want a little bitty one, that's what I had for several years. And that is what I would suggest doing, is doing a small one. Um, and so these are the kind of tools. And like I said, I don't like to waste my time and money on a bunch of different things that you honestly don't have to have. You do not need to have a foam cutter, which are like real expensive. I don't have one. So I just use very sharp scissors and they tend to work for me. So you don't need a lot of the real expensive tools. This is what you need. And honestly, this is all I use, and I've been doing it since 2012, and I don't have any fancy gadgets. This is my toolbox right here, and I've continued to use them. So I'm proving that you don't need a lot of things to be able to do upholstery. And so I don't know if you guys have questions for in the Q&A. If you will type any questions in there, because we're kind of getting toward the end, and I can hopefully take a couple questions from you, because I know I've kept you a long time. I only open my course a few times a year. It is open today. Actually, typically I open on Sunday, but it's already up. My web designer threw it up there and opened it up. So it's chairwhimsy.com/course. That's where you can see it and read all about it. And at the bottom, you can join. And again, if you wanted that payment plan, you just need to email me. It's the $39.99 payment plan. Shoot me an email, info@chairwhimsy.com or wendy@chairwhimsy.com. I answer both. It comes to me. And I am happy to send you the link to that if that's something that you're interested in. But let's see if we have any questions. So I will go to the Q&A and see if there's anything. So some people, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. So Kim is asking, I'm going to put this one up. Kim is asking, do I do seats with springs and show how to tie them? So in this course, it's a beginner's course. So I do not do springs on these chairs. This is something that I am considering adding to the course, possibly this summer. So any kind of updates I put into the course, everyone gets it who's already purchased the course. So it is something, but tying springs is not for the faint of heart. I'm going to warn you. I do not believe that most chairs need them. I do use springs on settees because they're very long and they need more support kind of in the middle, and the springs can help with that. But it's not absolutely necessary to have. So, I hope that helps to answer your question, Kim. But good question. Tying springs. Let me also say something about this, that it is very hard on your hands. So if you struggle with arthritis, it's not going to be something you want to do. My hands are all swollen once I'm done tying springs. So it's not for the faint of heart, but it is something that you can totally learn. But I don't think as a beginner, it's something that you need to worry about, because the way I show how to do the seats, I show how to do it in a way that it's very comfortable. They're very plump. They feel very sturdy. And so it's something that you can get by with without doing it. And honestly, a lot of these little chairs that have springs in them, I personally feel like it's too stressful for the frame, especially as they get older. So, I mean, that's my opinion on it, but take it for what it's worth, Kim. Okay. I'm going to answer Stephanie. On a custom order, can you wrap foam with down to make a seat more comfortable? I have never done that, Stephanie. I think like a down, I know that people will use down comforters and wrap the foam if it's a loose cushion, because that can work definitely. So if you sew loose cushions, I've had that done for me for certain projects that, like again, I tell you, I don't sew cushions like that because I just don't want to, but I've had people do that and it makes it more cushy. It's also a little more wrinkly too, just so you know, because it's got down in there as well. So it's not super tight on there. So I hope that helps. Lisa is asking, do I offer consulting one-on-one outside of your bonus mentioned today? I can offer one-on-one coaching. So if you're interested in something like that, you can contact me and then we can discuss. I can tell you what that's all about. But typically, I do help people with their businesses. That's what a lot of my consulting offers, and a lot of how to show up online with your business and things like that for Instagram and Facebook and different things like that. So I can help you in that way, Lisa. Okay. And another question, in the course package, you mentioned you break down pricing. Can you elaborate? Is there a formula? Are you asking like as far as breaking down the pricing of what I charge um on my chairs? I'm thinking that like when I sell my chairs. So yes. Okay, good. Okay. Okay. So as far as the pricing, yes. So I talk about in my master class what I charge. And again, it is to me all about the profit. Like how much profit are you going to make? You do not want to do a chair and only make $100. Like that is not worth your time. And so I'm very honest and very straightforward in that masterclass training. And really, I do spill all the beans. Whenever I first started my business, even when it was a hobby business, on Etsy, and I decided, oh, let's see if I could sell some chairs. I reached out to a couple of people who did chairs at the time, and nobody would help me. Like I had questions, and everyone just, I guess, viewed me as competition, which is ridiculous because, right, we all have our secret sauce, and we're all unique in the way we design. So I think there's plenty of people to buy chairs. There's no competition there. I mean, I can't possibly do all the chair orders for everybody. I only can do them for a certain amount of people. It's very limited. And we all have our own style. So I definitely spill all the beans. I don't hold anything back in that. That's why it's so valuable and it's expiring tomorrow night. So yeah, but I think that you will get a lot out of that if you're interested. Okay. Oh, awesome. Christian said, I purchased the course a few minutes ago, received my email information with courses and bonus courses. How will I know if I was one of the first 10 to sign up? I will send an email out. So I just need to go in and check out the first 10 that have come in the queue. And then I'll get you an email out this afternoon with the link to schedule your one-on-one with me. So yeah, so you'll get that, Christian, with that. Okay, so here's another question. This might sound silly. How do you price out glue? So I'm assuming maybe you mean like the supplies that I'm using and things like that. So in general, I know what it takes to um, use new item like new foam and new Dacron and new cotton and all the things in a chair. Typically, it is like a $30 amount of putting new items on that chair besides the fabric, not including the fabric. So I kind of include that in on it. I mean, some chairs need very minimal repairs and others need a lot more. So I kind of go with a median, price of what it typically costs me. So I hope that helps a little bit. Okay, Antoinetta asking, can I pay the course in 3 or 4 months? I do have a 3-month option. So if you want that, just send me an email, info@chairwhimsy. I can send you the direct link to do a 3-month payment. I think it's 127 for 3 months. So if you're interested in doing that, that's what I used to have as my payment plan. And then a lot of people said they needed a 6 month. So I kind of put that one to the side. But I do have that. So send me an email and I'll send you the direct link for that. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, well, I hope there's no other questions popping in. I think I've answered everything. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. Again, if you are interested in getting this, and I never knew how doing chairs was going to change my life. And that sounds so silly to say something that chairs would do that. But I can tell you that I thought I was just going to go and have some fun and learn and do my own chairs and make them fun. And then a few years later, redo my own chairs. It's what I do when I want to do like a little mini makeover in a room. I just redo my chairs. But I can tell you from my students' perspective that many of them, it's like a self-esteem thing that it has done for them. And I am excited for them, but also shocked that that they've been sharing with me, that it helps their relatives and family members to see that, oh, wow, they have something valuable and something creative that they never knew they had in them. And it just boosts their self esteem. They have, again, beautiful gifts to give people. Some are turning it into a business and making some extra money that way to be able to go and take vacations or whatever. And so that is something that I can tell you that it really can change your life. But even if it doesn't change your life, it is so much fun to be able to do this. And that's why I offer this course, is that it is something that can really bring you a lot of joy to create, because it's something that has done this for me. And so, anyway, I would love to see you in the course. But if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I'm be happy to answer them. I'll be in my email this afternoon answering questions and things like that. And I'm so happy that you came. Thank you, everyone, so much for spending this time with me. I know we've gone over about 17 minutes. I usually try to make it about an hour, but it gets kind of exciting, right? So thank you for joining me. I hope these tips were helpful to you. And again, reach out if you have any questions. And if you're interested in the course, it's chairwhimsy.com/course. And if you want to email me, info@chairwhimsy.com, and I'm happy to answer. Have a great Saturday. And if you're a mother, happy Mother's Day early. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.